Closed meetings. I have two. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee, Monday, December 10th. In attendance, we had Sherry, Deb, Carl, Ava, and Gracie. The vote to close was 5-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. Purpose was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. Meeting was closed at 1:03 and opened at 2:20. There was a closed meeting of the Audit Committee held also on December 10th, 2018. Committee members were Jim, Greg, Ginny, Dick, Tim. The vote to close was 5-0-0. It was closed under Section 1 and Section 4, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. The purpose was reviewing several internal audit reports and consultation with staff, personnel, and legal matters. The meeting was closed at 8:25 p.m. and opened at 9:35 p.m. So that's it. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Nancy moved. Is there a second? Ginny seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Alan?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. No conflicts of interest have been disclosed to me. President's report. Milton, anything you want to add with your report?
Hope you read.
Right. Janet?
I was just wondering if you could say like 2 or 3 sentences about your New Orleans trip.
Oh, yeah.
What your focus was. That sounds really interesting.
Did you have
Okay,
fun?
2 or 3 sentences.
Well, you can use more than that. I'm not trying to.
No, it's 10, 15. I don't want to say more than that. It was very informative. There's a lot that the biggest thing for me, the takeaway that you heard after a day and a half of presentation, and the question was being begged to ask, was that with New Orleans being the situation it is, and right now is in an exceptional position and progressing, but for Katrina. Louisiana has a reputation, and all of us know what Louisiana's reputation is. New Orleans has a reputation. Katrina was one of those situations where all those realities came to light, and right now in New Orleans, most of the work that's being done, most of the beneficial work that's being done, is not by government. It's by NGOs, not a non-government organization, and the private sector. Their school system, all charter.
No kidding. Wow.
A pretty good message.
So I took more than 3 sentences, but it was impressive. I learned a lot.
I'd like to follow up with you on that.
Well, I have tomorrow afternoon. I've been asked to sit down with Dr. Ball's chief of staff and deputy chief of staff to just update him on the trip.
Very good.
Great. Glad you went. Appreciate taking us.
I'll make this real quick. Many of you will recall that about 2 years ago, the board gave instructions to the Inner Harbor delegates from CA, things that we wanted to promote, and one of them was that we were all kind of appalled that Michael McCall had changed the name of our park to Merriweather Park at Symphony Woods. We instructed our delegates to oppose that at every opportunity. I was a little dismayed when looking at the annual report to see that the term Merriweather Park at Symphony Woods was used on several occasions. We should not be doing that. It is Symphony Woods. We can't allow a rebranding of our property, and I feel very strongly about that.
Dick, the legal name is Merriweather Park at Symphony Woods. That's the way it is in all of the documents.
All the documents that have been approved for that park is Merriweather Park at Symphony Woods.
All right. Any other questions for Milton's report?
Yeah, this is Alan. Given that this is a year in review,
Yes.
As you look back on this year, Milton, what are the 1 to 3 biggest, pick your word, challenges, setbacks, issues you've faced,
Well,
or the organization has faced?
For the sake of time, Alan, one of the biggest challenges that we have, not just now, just in 2018, but going forward, is that over the last 3 or 4 fiscal years, we've had a $20 million capital budget, the largest capital budget in the history of the organization, where our capital needs are going to continue to increase. And it's one of the things that's going to be very important to me with staff working with the board is for us to become more diligent in making our priorities when it comes to our capital expenditures. So we have accomplished a lot this year. The new tennis center, the work we done phase 3 with the swim center, with the new, the work we did with the athletic club, but there's still so much more work to be done. And so our challenge is keeping up with the capital needs of this organization.
Great.
Thank you.
And Janet.
Milton, it was either last month or the month before, we heard that you were going to be coming out with some kind of a new report in line with what a lot of board members were asking about. What's the status of that? I mean, I thought Andy said it was going to be in like November or December.
No, I've said I was going to come. This is the reason why we didn't do anything in October. We did the year end. I said my focus is to look at coming out with a different format in January. And I'm still exploring those options with staff because one of the things that's been posed that I would like to modify this report, which is more or less a public document, but some of the board members has also said, would you explore the idea that because challenges can come in latitude, come in degrees. I don't want, another document may be where I send it only to the board as a Google Doc where we can highlight some of the challenges of the organization as opposed to incorporating that in a document that we post online. So yes, they're going to be changing it. They're going to be a change in this document, but there may be a separate document that I will be sharing just with the board.
Okay. I mean, I'm sorry to be contrarian, but I do not understand at all why this is taking so long.
Greg, just give me time. Give me time. We're going to get there. It's not. There's nothing that I'm hiding that's not here. It's just you ask for a different format, and we will get you there.
No, we didn't find out about the mold problem in Longfellow until months after it happened. That's just one example, but it should not take months to just start adding little things in. Hey, this challenge occurred or this problem occurred. That's not doesn't require a reworking, revamping, whatever. It's just start putting the stuff in. I don't.
Greg, I said we're going to January. We will change it. That's all I have to say.
So when are you going to change it?
I said January.
And how are you going to change it?
I'm not there yet, Greg.
Okay.
Well,
January.
I would like to
I
put
don't know what it's going to take to get
a word in here that
No, let me get
that-
there.
Janet, you're
I'm concerned that we don't hide. I'm concerned that we don't only put positive things in our public-facing documents. The public or who pays for our services, they deserve to know. Obviously, there are things that are reasonably kept confidential, but otherwise, no.
Janet, you're
So 2 things. One, I just wanted to call out for school-age services that Milton and Susan were both instrumental in getting online receipts for parents. This is part of his...
okay. Everybody needs to kind of get a little closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. It's just getting hard
Thank you.
for people to hear.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay. I thought you were telling me to make it shorter. I'm like, I can't say that.
Get closer to the mic.
I just wanted to call out for school-age services, something that's not listed here that you may not know is that Milton and Susan were both instrumental in fulfilling a parent request to get online receipts, and this is to submit to HSAs, and so it made their life much easier to be able to generate this receipt themselves. So that was a really big, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, so thank you. And the second thing was, I was just curious if our new archives person had ever been in to talk to the board. I thought maybe that happened and I missed that meeting, or if not, I'd like to suggest that we bring her in, because I've never actually met her, and I'd like to. So.
Susan, could you just catch that? Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you, Milton. Appreciate your report. We got the Inner Arbor Trust report. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Lynn, when you get a chance, I'd like to see the documentation on the name change of Symphony Woods.
Okay, I will get some things together for you. It's really,
Just show me where it all happened. Thank
Okay.
The deed in the county.
Okay, financial reports. Financial reports were reviewed by the audit committee, and they sent them to the board. They had a good discussion, I think. Yeah. All right, dashboard.
No,
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure.
This has to do with the dashboard a little bit too, but we did talk about one thing in particular, and that's the membership information. Financial reports here. Starting on page about 150. Yeah, 150. The steady drop in memberships turned into a small hemorrhage in the last quarter, and caused in significant part by the fact that, and it was a good thing, this, I think it had happened at some point, that staff decided to drop a number of memberships that had aged over 120 days without any payment. Had to happen. And so what I've asked for is, okay, we're dropping at 120. Can we see what's in the pipeline as far as members that aren't paying, so we know as this policy continues where we drop a number of memberships every month. It shouldn't be as large as it was this particular quarter, but just so we can see how many folks aren't paying and how many memberships we're potentially going to drop. But yeah, that was obviously some unfortunate news. And at the same time, for all of you, again, I know I complain about this, but at the same time, you have to see the incredible improvements at the facilities. And it's just, to me, you can't. Yeah, these numbers are bad, but the fact is, you go into the athletic club, you go into Supreme, the swim center. I mean, the places really are turning around, and I still, as down as I get about this, I am just hopeful that at some point we can level off and stabilize and start increasing. I don't see how we can be a community service organization when we're serving less than a third of it, which is what we're down to now. So that's one thing we did talk about.
Dick, anything you want to add? All right. Dashboard. Milton, anything? No. Susan. Dan, welcome. Susan.
So we're gonna just want to highlight there is a new value or a new metric that is just beginning to be tracked on the Clara Bridge results of effort, and Dan's going to talk about that. The dashboard's attached, as you see. It's for the most part data through the second quarter. In some cases, it's the actual audited data as is described. And you can see in the first graph, Greg had asked that this graph shows net change. And I think that, Greg, you had asked for whole dollars rather than the net change. So we would just ask if that's what the board would like. We can make that change. But the idea was that this would show the net impact rather than just the balances. Anything you would want to add to that?
What was the change again?
We didn't make a change. This is always showing the net change in receivables, and you had asked for just the dollars, the balances, and the number of accounts, and so we're just raising that.
On the number of memberships, I said number of memberships and then the dollar amount, because I didn't understand a negative. Like, I guess for this quarter was negative $9.5 million.
Right. So the number of past due, the dollar value of past due memberships decreased by that. Right.
Yeah. Our focus from a collection standpoint has been to try to address collection issues with members sooner. And so we thought an appropriate metric that we created, I think it was just a little over a year ago, actually it's a fairly new metric, was to measure ourselves on how many accounts each quarter were moving into over 90 status, how many were getting that far, because we were trying to tackle them earlier. And we finally recently have started to show decreases in the number of accounts moving into over 90 status. It was also that effort over the past year that pointed us to the fact that we were continuing to bill and carrying receivables that were bad for too long. And we didn't want to focus on folks who were 120, 160, 200 days old, or carried them in the receivables, we were reserving for all of them anyway. And we weren't being paid for those. So we've trimmed our balance sheet. On the balance sheet, you can see where the receivable balance has gone from well over $1 million to just a couple $100,000. And when you think about it, we bill our members on the 18th of every month for the following month. So you really, in an environment like that, shouldn't have any, in a perfect world, wouldn't have any receivables at the end of your month at all. So that's why we're just trying to focus on billing, maintaining the contract terms, collecting sooner, and that was the whole purpose of the net change. How many accounts were moving into over 90? And it was increasing, and so we've developed new communications, earlier notifications to our members, and we are recently seeing fewer dollars moving into over 90 status. And hopefully the bad debt expense has gone down and will continue to go down as a result of that. But we can also show.
I still don't understand the graph. I understand what you're saying, but I still don't understand the graph. But anyway, can we do the next one with the? Is that what you were saying, Susan? The next one we're going to have the.
Well, I'm
numbers.
presenting that. That was one.
Could someone please tell me what we're looking at?
The dashboard page. Well, the first.
Packet.
It's metric number 1, right? We're looking
Yes.
at metric number 1.
The graph for metric number 1.
We can show just like a bar graph of each quarter's total over $90, and the number of accounts represented in that over 90 population.
So this-
We can show that.
That would be
This-
very helpful.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Renee?
So does the over 90-day chart include the receivables that you've written off, or no? Is the reason
No.
it's going down because of the write-offs?
No, we've excluded write-offs.
Right, so you've
Because that
excluded
would
the
distort
write-offs.
it.
At what point do you write them off?
120 days.
So they're only on here for how long? These are over 90, but less than 120 days.
These are just the accounts that moved into over 90 during the quarter.
Right, so they only qualify for that for a 1-month period during that quarter.
That's
Because
right.
once you're over 90 days and then you move to 121 days, you're off the chart.
Well, unless you pay.
Well,
Right.
so let me ask a question. If I go to the gym and I haven't made my payment, and my payment's due on the 1st, so how I can continue going to the gym until I'm 90 days past due?
No. We have a couple different status changes that you go through.
Okay,
You're active until you miss 2 billings, okay?
why?
So, well, that's only been 30 days, really. It's kind of a grace period. You have a 30-day,
Okay,
you're billed on the 18th, not on the 1st, for the following month.
right.
And we allow you to, if you miss that one, you stay in an active status until the 18th of the following month.
So you're basically 30 plus 18 days due. So 48 days.
Correct.
Past due.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 50 days because if you're declined a second time,
Right.
we do attempt to correct the decline, to collect the decline.
But I
And
can still keep going to the gym?
until you are made inactive on like that 3rd day after the second decline.
Keep in mind that when you pay your dues on the date it's due,
Mm-hmm.
you're paying for the month ahead.
Right,
So you get through the end of that month.
Right.
And then you get, if you haven't,
right.
okay. So it's not like we're carrying people for.
Month ahead or 2 weeks ahead?
And you have to give, I think, as at least one, because there's so many issues with credit cards. Like if somebody's gotten their card hacked or breached, or and the expiration dates and things like that.
I'm there, I'm okay on that, I just want to understand.
But there's a point at which you get marked inactive,
Right.
and that's when you can't
And
use
the flag
gym
comes
anymore.
up and you're not supposed to be
So-
allowed in.
All right, I live on CA property, I go to the gym, I don't make my payment, I'm 60 days, 90 days, 120 days past due. At what point do you call lawyers? Do you use a collection agency? What
We
goes
we
on?
use an in-house counsel attorney letter at about the 75th day,
Okay.
and that we do not use an outside agency, no.
Okay. And what's your collection rate?
Well,
On the starting at the 75th or the 60th day, what percentage do you collect?
once you get to the 75th day, it's quite low, but we have a pretty high collection rate before 60. But once you get out to that 75th day, you have a lot of people, who have decided that not paying is their way of leaving us.
Right.
They don't go to the trouble of canceling. Some of them have moved, some of them just don't use the facilities anymore, some of them have lost their jobs, and they just find it easier not to pay than to go through a cancellation process.
You're being ghosted.
I'm sorry?
You're being ghosted.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, so, sure, Dick.
I just wanted to clarify something. You have Columbia resident memberships, and then you have Columbia cards. Columbia cards are for non-residents. Is that how I should read that?
No.
No. What's the difference? between
A Columbia card is just a card that validates that you are a Columbia resident and gives you then the ability to access the facilities on a daily basis or on an ad hoc basis.
Oh, okay.
So
it's
without a membership.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so the question we have really is, there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding of exactly what Metric 1 reports. Okay, and so basically staff is asking, what can they do to make it more understandable to the board? What is it that the board's kind of looking for? Because it's clear we're not understanding the first metric. So what is it that you really want to look at?
In my message, I said I'm happy with the 90-day line that I think the staff says has meaning. Okay, but for me, I would get more meaning out of this if as they've said, we could see the total dollar amount of those memberships that are 90 days or more. I guess you were saying 90 days or more, and then the total number of memberships that applies to each quarter.
Does that make sense to the board? Kind of looking.
Wait, say that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Because part of the problem is I want to make sure everybody understands, because I don't want to be here next month and everybody's scratching their head saying, well, what does this metric mean? So I want to make sure we get a
Actually,
sense.
can we talk about what we're hoping to get out
Yeah,
of
what
this
do we want to
metric
get out of
so
it?
that we make sure that we're all actually trying to find the same answer?
Well, and before we go there, I've got two different documents that have the dashboard, and I don't see what we're talking about in either of them.
It's page
All I
four,
see are the
page 3. Well, it's not
NPS scores and
It's metric 1, net change in past due membership accounts over 90 days.
was this in our packet?
Yes, on page 33 of 110.
33. Okay, let me move to that. There it is. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I mean, Janet's got it right. What is it that we really want to see? What is the purpose?
I understand this. Greg, what are you looking for in
Well,
addition?
It's not.
What I'm hearing from staff is that when you get to 90 days, that's a bad time generally. As you say, collections are going down. It seems as if the member has made a decision. He or she is probably done, and so that's a significant time. And so, I thought the point of metric 1 was to show us how many memberships are reaching that bad place.
Oh, as opposed to dollar amounts.
Well, no, dollar in both dollar amount and in number of memberships.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you.
Yeah, I think you need both.
But again, I mean, what Andy's saying is true. We could say, well, no, we want to see 60 days, right? Because 60 days is a pretty bad place too.
It's
You know?
yeah.
So
That's really the place where it's,
And my question is, what do we want to do with the metric? Because that to me drives what we want it to show us. You know, so you were saying that the goal is to have X percentage before 90 days, or I mean, you know, a certain dollar value. But I'm still struggling. I mean, I understand what the chart is saying. I'm just trying to understand what it's telling me overall.
It may be as meaningful to you or more meaningful to you to see. I think the number of accounts moving into 90-day status is important to watch. That's how I monitor myself and my team on our collection efforts. If we are allowing it now, it has to be taken into the context with how many memberships we have, sort of as a relationship, a percentage, if you will, because if you have 1,000 memberships and 10 of them move into 90-day status, if you have 10,000 memberships, you have to expect more to move into 90-day status.
Right.
That's the nature of some of them just using that to go away.
And
So
see, I think that, like a percentage of memberships, to me would tell me more than a dollar value, because it doesn't. And I mean, I think that speaks to your point. You're talking about number of memberships and the dollar value of those memberships, but and I wouldn't care if the percentage, quite honestly, is percentage of dollars of membership or number of memberships. But I think that number tells us more than how much total is 90 plus days.
So the point of this was to show the effect of effort. You know, what's changing and in what direction is it going?
Jenny, do you have something?
Yeah, I guess in terms of the membership, I really wonder if we shouldn't do it at 60 days, but I agree it should be not just the amount, but the number. And then when you have the number, you know, if there's a certain percentage that you almost shouldn't count because they've given up, they've moved away, they're, you know, I want to know how many we could still reach. 50% of those that aren't paying, we could still reach, and if we did more outreach, they'd be members again, is what I'm trying to figure out. It's not, say there are 500 that aren't paying after 60 days, and 250 have moved out of the area or dropped dead or God knows what, okay? They're never going to be members again. Sorry about that. They're never going to be members again. The other 250, first meeting, right? The other 250 maybe just don't see the value in belonging to the clubs. And we could reach out to them and get them motivated, et cetera, and maybe get them back as members. So I don't see a breakdown here of that 250 is reachable.
Yeah, we cannot do that in this context. We're not tracking the people moving into 60 and whether they're leaving or not. That's just not possible in this combination. So, you know, we're going to go through attrition. We'll talk about that, but this needs to be data points that we can actually measure and that makes sense.
Well, excuse me though, but Dan, I think you told me we do have data on people that sign up to be a member and they're not using the membership at all, right?
That's different because we can track their usage.
Right.
When you're tracking someone who's not responding to you because they owe money, they're just responding because they owe us. They're not responding to us because they owe us money. I have no idea whether they're responding to us, not responding to us because they move.
Right.
They just don't want to pay us money.
Okay.
That's what
Wait.
Here's
What
here's
Here's the person I want to reach. You told me once before we do have data on how many people have a membership but just aren't coming to our clubs, right? Non-users, whatever you call them. At that point, at some point, does that person just then stop paying? Because I've heard this from people. So that's the person that I want to see that we do more work on trying to reach. Yeah, I know we're making money because they're not using it, I guess, but our obligation, again, is to improve the health and fitness of our residents. And we should be doing more outreach there. And, you know, and if they turn out to be then members that leave because we didn't show them that there was a value in belonging to a club, then we failed, I think.
How would you measure
Is that too strong a word? What?
Yeah.
Jenny, how would you measure
It's too strong.
that?
Sorry about that.
How would you gather that data?
He told me months and months ago that they can identify that you're not a user, Dick. I mean, I know that's not true.
I was
You play
just there
pickleball.
yesterday.
Yeah, apparently Ken,
No,
they
no, I
can
think
do
I
that.
think you're asking for.
They can do that.
You're,
They
you're
can-
asking for qualitative information, whereas we're looking at
Yes,
quantitative.
I know,
information.
but
And maybe what you're really looking for is an effort on the salespeople to go back in,
Correct.
several months later, and see if they can find that person and that would be a quantitative or a qualitative response.
and then you won't have a dropout. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't see that being on the.
Well,
the
you could have
dashboard, 'cause it's
something
not a
here
hard-
that
it's
says
not a-
non-users or
It's
something.
not a hard number.
Okay, so going back to metric 1, what I am sensing from the board is that a percentage figure would be better, right?
You won't pay.
A number, a percentage, and a dollar amount.
But it's got to be a percentage.
Say that
Well.
again. Yeah, okay. The percentage of members that are over 60
Yeah,
days,
over-
is that what you're asking?
What do you want, 60 or 90? Quick.
Oh, I don't care.
Sounds like 60 is a figure where you could turn it around. 90 is almost hopeless, right? I think is what we heard.
90 is hopeless.
So why bother with 90? It's a little late.
My feeling is that the number we're getting there, what we're looking for is a slope on the line. And, whether it's a specific number of people or whether it's a dollar amount, I don't think there's a real distinction there. I want to know, are we getting better at our collections? And that's, I think, the critical number.
That's what this
That's
is
true.
showing.
And that's what we're getting.
That's what
That's
you're
the
getting.
goal.
now.
Well, I think there could be a difference between numbers and dollars if a certain category or higher cost membership, if they were changing differently, or were 60 days, 90 days differently.
That's a good thing.
The number of people and dollars would be and percentage would be different then.
So how about we try a percentage of over 60 members to the total and over $60 to the total? Is that something that we can?
All right, we'll give that a try.
Moving right along.
Receivables, not revenue.
New into that
New into that category.
Into that stage.
Yeah.
It's just the number in that stage. It's a combination of people.
Right.
Well, so just moving in. So once they're already in, if they stay in, then they won't be in the next metric.
Well, with the 60, you're in 60. Once you're 90, you see, our aging is 90 plus. So 90 plus becomes your 90, your 100, your 102.
Right.
So
Would they still be in the metric? Would they be in the next metric, or would they not be in the next metric
I
because
can
they've already
show
moved
either
in?
way. We were concentrating on the movement, the aging of the accounts. How many accounts, boom, moved into that 90 category? Because that's what we're trying to minimize. But if you just show accounts each month that are in over 90, it becomes a combination of ones that were there, that some of them might have come out because they paid, some of them might have come out because they moved to, they were written off, they got to 120 see, it becomes a hodgepodge, you don't really know what's going on. It depends on what you want to see. Our focus was on the ones that got to that point, and you only get to that point once.
Okay. Are there any other questions on any of the metrics before we get to the Clara Bridge? All right. Want to go to the Clara Bridge portion? Because I know Dan's going to. Susan, is that okay?
Oh, that's fine with me.
All right, Clara Bridge. We're on the Clara Bridge portion.
Okay, because it's way past my bedtime.
Yeah.
I'll be quick. First, I want to issue an apology. I have a new copy if anybody wants it. On the second page the gray box in the middle, quarter-over-quarter takeaways. I realized today when I was reviewing the materials, I turned it into a PDF before I finished the last two lines. So the line for Columbia Gym and tennis is different than what you have. Sorry about that. Columbia Gym, it's basically the same. It did decrease from quarter over quarter, but I think that one says first quarter. And tennis actually dropped. It went up because of Long Reach the previous quarter, but then it dropped because of the temporary conditions at the athletic club this quarter. Third world conditions is actually what they were called. That's what happens when you build a new tennis building. Everything's worse by standards. Overall, the movement is what we saw last quarter as well, with the renovations causing disruption. We had a slight rebound in golf from the after the winter kill and recovering a little bit from the bridge damage. But pools were very strong, and Haven dropped a little bit, but based on the total volume, it's only a couple of responses different. What I really want to point out is two new things that we're doing that I think are pretty exciting. One is, as Susan mentioned, it's called an effort score. On the front page, the first page, we've talked about sentiment, which is the positive and negative tone of what people are saying. We've talked about the Net Promoter Score. Clara Bridge has just introduced a metric called effort score. What an effort score is much like the sentiment. It looks through the verbatims, what people are writing, and looks for sentences or phrases that talk about how easy or hard it is to do business with us, things that cause friction. It's the same scale as sentiment, which is the -5 to 5. So a really easy example is, Laura didn't like this one, but your website is impossible to navigate is a hard effort. Your website makes it easy to find all the locations is an easy effort. Your website is ugly is neutral. There's no effort involved. That's sentiment. So it talks about that. So really, the key thing about this metric, Net Promoter and sentiment tend to be lagging indicators, where effort is more of a current predictive. It tells us where people are heading. And if effort is hard, then that's going to drive a lower sentiment or a Net Promoter. So it gives us a forward-looking metric as well as the reactive metrics of the other two. So really excited to have that metric come up. With the renovations, the previous quarter we were at a -1.32 sentiment. We actually increased, so we got slightly easier to a -1.16. And the previous quarters before and they didn't give me the numbers, they did go back and look. These numbers are lower than what it had been before in the previous quarter. So with the Net Promoter and the sentiment or the effort, I'm really anticipating now that we're through these renovations, we're going to see a bump in January's survey. But really excited to see metric and give us some things to dig into and get ahead of the curve rather than reacting, it's been good, but this is even better to combine all the different metrics. Any questions on effort?
What would an effort score be that you'd be reasonably pleased with? I get the
if we can get to 0, that would be a really good place to start.
That wasn't my question. It was about what you'd be pleased with, not a few.
I think if we can get into the positive 1s and 2s, I think we're in really, really good shape. I think 5 is an unrealistic expectation for everything to be effortless. But I think if we can get into the positive 1s, maybe 2. This is a new metric, so I can tell you what comparative Net Promoter Scores are. This is brand new and was just released, so I'm ballparking that if I can get to 1, I'd be really happy to start with.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so any questions for Dan about the Clara Bridge data?
One more thing that we're doing that'll We've also gone back and retroactively added everybody's age to the surveys they responded to. So now we can begin dividing up and analyzing the data based on what facilities they used as an aggregate, the facilities as individuals, but then I can look at the aggregate data based on age ranges as well. So we'll begin to see how different age groups are responding. And if you read the sheet, 65 plus had the highest net promoter score, and our millennials had the lowest response rate and the lowest net promoter score.
Not a surprise.
Do we gather other demographics, gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, etc.?
We do gender. We haven't tracked it or separated it out yet. That's the next one. We wanted to do age first. We can track any metric that we have in Spectrum, and ethnicity is not one of them. We do look at resident versus non-resident. So anything we have as part of your membership information, if we decide to add that in, we can add it in and tag it back and begin looking through that data.
Thanks.
Janet, you had a question?
Yeah, on the,
Can you just,
yeah, under the sentiment one, this likely to recommend of 7.87, can you help me understand what that number means?
So which one were you at?
So in the little box that says survey metrics attribute name, it's at the top, like the first block.
Oh.
Right under Columbia Association.
Okay, so what was your
The last
question?
line there is likely to recommend.
Oh, that's so that's a different way of looking at the net promoter score. So the net promoter score.
Highly engaged.
Yeah, this is really isn't. It's not a good metric to necessarily look at for the likely to recommend. So the net promoter is a 0 to 10 scale, and what this is. So the average response was 7.87, which doesn't tell you a lot because really net promoter is based on these red, gray, and green buckets, not the average score. And the sentiment is the average sentiment of the people who responded to those questions. Their verbatims, you can see they were all generally to the positive side.
And does the green and red to the right of that, is that supposed to all be the same, or is it actually just subtly different and I can't tell?
Yeah, they're all very close. Okay. I mean, those responses are all, that corresponds to the average. So, 91, 88, 88, 87, they're all really close.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. Move on, consent agenda, all approved, board votes. Is there a motion to?
Oh, before we move off the consent agenda, Andy, I just want to flag something. In the agenda for November 8th, lines 46 and 47, there's a mention that I asked staff to provide a rationale, and I don't recall having gotten that rationale. I'm wondering where we are with.
I'll defer that question to Milton because I have no idea.
What?
Oh, just when
146.
when Alan asked.
Okay. Find a rationale for termination.
Right, and I know you
Chair. Well, find out.
Sherry said was working on it. All right. Is there a motion to approve the independent auditors for 2019? The audit committee did look at them and recommended the board approve them.
So moved.
Nancy moved. Is there a second? Second. Lynn actually seconded it, that one, sorry.
Congratulations, Lynn.
Got in before you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Looks unanimous. Okay.
Did you get Alan?
Alan?
Said aye.
Said aye. Okay.
I
All
said
right,
aye, but I also don't heard an answer to my question before.
Going to
It's on the tracking log.
Is it on the second look? Okay, thank you.
your due date is 12/21.
Thank you.
Thank Thanks for pointing out, Susan. Okay, the easement requests. We did talk about these last.
Are we going to do the auditors?
We did.
Oh, we did.
Sorry, we
did?
already.
Wow.
You missed it.
It was unanimous. You said yes.
Need a coffee?
What time is
Okay,
it?
easement requests. All right, does anybody have any questions about the easement requests? I just want to point out, I mean, we did talk about these, and the one on the Shaw property, the easement comes with their being annexed into the village. That was what was said last week. All right, is there a motion to approve these 4 easements?
So moved.
Second.
Sherry moved,
Of course.
Ginny seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You're going to
I
abstain.
abstain.
And Renee abstains. So it passes 901 with Renee abstaining.
Doesn't have to abstain.
Okay, tracking forms. All right, talking points.
The board voted to elect Renee Wise to the board representing River Hill, to appoint Eagle Marie Lambert by consent to the Architectural Research Committee, to appoint Clifton Larsenau as external auditing firm for FY19. Howard County.
Any changes, anybody?
No.
Sounds really good.
That sounds great.
All right, I want to thank everyone for spending all this time. I want to thank Renee, who kind of got really inundated. And hearing no objection, we were adjourned at 10:59.